2016, the year when Disney officially started to make Star Wars movies. Just when we thought the franchise was over, Disney swooped in and told us, nope, we're gonna make Star Wars movies for the young people too, cause it can't then ever. You are not gonna die, Star Wars, and die it will not. Because 2016 was when it was kicked into high gear. The Force Awakens had already come out the previous year, and we had just gotten Rogue One. Now, I honestly didn't really care about Rogue One because I was still looking forward to Episode 8, and Rogue One was, well, really just about the Death Star plans, and I was thinking to myself, was anyone really wondering how the Death Star plans came to be and why there was a flaw in the Death Star? Yes, it was a flaw in the original trilogy, but making up for it almost 40 years later, yeah, the old Star Wars fans are gonna be pretty bummed about that. Pretty bummed about that, if I do say so myself. But it is nothing to be afraid of because actually Disney was saying that they're gonna produce a few more movies later on in the year, or at least in the years to come. We had 2017's Last Jedi. We're gonna have Han Solo in 2018, and 2019 we shall have Episode 9. And I'm like, yes. 2019, I can't wait to see Luke as a Force ghost. I know he died like a charm in Episode 8, so him being a Force ghost, hopefully he's more powerful than he was in Episode 8. Maybe because what he told Kylo Ren is that if you kill me, I'll be more stronger than you ever were. Such an Obi-Wan thing to say, especially since he learned from Obi-Wan. I can't wait to see Rey be more awesome, be more of a Jedi. I know she was a Mary Sue, hopefully in Episode 9. It carries on, and we get to see the Star Wars tradition live up to its name. I know Disney has been on a rocky road with the sequel trilogy, but hopefully now they can improve themselves, and who knows, we'll see what happens. And, I'm actually hoping for Solo. I mean, I can't wait to see a younger version of Han Solo. Wait, what? Hey guys, Captain Phoenix here. Yep, it's still 2018, and I went to go and see Solo, a Star Wars film yesterday. So, yeah, it turns out that Disney actually went out and made a young Han Solo film. I'm not sure how I feel about this because, as we all know, Harrison Ford is not playing Han Solo. He is Han Solo. So having Disney recast him was a bit, there for me. But as you know, I try to be a guy who wants to play everything equally. I want to measure both sides so that nobody thinks I'm on one side and I'm discriminating on another side. But, well, let's see what this review is. This is my review for Solo, a Star Wars story. Let's begin. Alright guys, so as much as I try to make my reviews as spoiler free as possible, this time I'm really not into it. As in, I've just found out I'm just so bad at keeping it as spoiler free as possible. I've just quit, so I'm just gonna bring in spoilers every now and then. Now, let me talk about the cast for Solo: Star Wars Story, because I feel that's the elephant in the room I need to address first. So we have the mother of dragons, playing Kira in this movie, and let me just say that she is honestly the weakest character to me. Like, she is so confusing. This movie doesn't know what it wants Kira to be. It doesn't know whether it wants her to be a good guy, a bad guy, good guy, bad guy. In the end, they do settle on her being a bad guy, but it's just like where the story gets so interesting that you want more to happen, but the story just ends like right there. We don't get any more chemistry, no more stuff going on. Like when she finally shows what she is, the movie just ends, as in it does nothing with her. And I know that the rumors that Disney is planning to make a Solo trilogy. I know the future movies are not going to be called Solo 2 or Solo 3, but why would they create a Solo trilogy? I mean, all we need is a Han Solo movie. I'll get into more about this movie later, but as I said, let me talk about the cast. The cast was perfect here. I felt everyone was in their roles properly. Kira, to me, as I said, she was the weakest character in this movie. Not really a big problem, seeing as the other characters were so good, but yeah, she really bugged me about this movie. And this forced love relationship she had with Han was just bothering me because it kept on going on and off. And as we know, Kira is like somebody who we're not supposed to trust, but it's hard watching Disney forcefully make Han Solo always fall over his feet for her, make him do this, make him do that for her, yet she doesn't even like him. Mara, she's a skeevy person. I know everyone in this movie is meant to have a mean side to them. it's like the Suicide Squad of Star Wars. Speaking of which, this movie actually does feel like the Suicide Squad of Star Wars, except better times 100. But yeah, Kira in this movie was really not selling it for me, and in all honesty, I found her to be the very weakest character. And that's saying something, considering Darth Maul was only on screen for 5 seconds. So yeah. Then we come to our main character, Solo himself. Now, when I went into this movie, I obviously didn't expect Harrison Ford to be there. But I was hoping they would still keep the character of Han there, a guy who doesn't care about anyone, a rogue, someone who only does things for money. In this movie, they just flipped his character instantaneously. Like, wow. I have never seen a poorer representation of Solo yet. And remember, this takes place before episode 4, before he starts caring about people. And even there in the original trilogy, he was just a guy who was there. Episode 5 is where he truly shone, and episode 6, Harrison Ford was just so tired of playing Solo, he wasn't even trying anymore. So, in this Solo film, I find it hard to accept that Solo starts liking people now. Like, the more I think about it, the harder it is to accept, because let's look at it from this perspective, okay? So we find out that Han Solo is 30 years old in A New Hope, okay? Yeah, Han Solo is 30 years old in A New Hope. Therefore, this movie is saying that, okay, well, not this movie, but Disney is saying that he is 5 years younger than he was in A New Hope. Meaning that if he is 30 years old in A New Hope, he's 25 in this movie. And seeing as there was a 3-year break from the beginning of the movie to somewhere in the middle of the movie, we know that he was at least 22 at the very start. So it doesn't explain why people are calling him a kid when he's only 5 years younger than what he was originally. I mean, that seems too short of a time. So even Han Solo being a kid back then, it still really doesn't explain much, considering that he cares about people. Kira, he's always falling over, and he just doesn't seem like a guy who would really care about a lot of people to me. I actually thought of him as a scoundrel in the beginning of the movie, yes. And as the movie continued moving on, I actually thought he would still keep that Solo charm, because as we know, Han is a guy who keeps on quipping. Even in times of distress, he would quip. Here he only quips like very rarely, and only at times when he gets over cocky. And even as the movie progresses on, I was actually seeing that he would be more of a scoundrel. As the movie went on, I actually saw more scoundrel in him, especially in the second act. In the second act, he was actually acting like the Harrison Ford's Han Solo. But immediately the third act came, it just fell on its face, and it acted like it had nothing to do with the character at all. Like, wow. But if you do not know who Harrison Ford is, or if you had a close connection to Harrison Ford like I did, I would advise you to go into this movie not thinking of Harrison Ford. If you take Han Solo the way he is, then I actually think you might like this character. Me, this character is just above average to me. As I said, the love story between him and Kira is just exhausting, and I really don't want to talk about it anymore. Now, the other characters like Chewie and Tobias Beckett, these guys are really awesome. Chewie, as we know, he's the heart and soul of Star Wars, aside from R2-D2 and C-3PO. Speaking of which, there was surprisingly no R2-D2 and C-3PO in this movie. I think R2-D2 appeared in one scene. Maybe it wasn't, maybe it was some other droid. But yeah, these guys have always been in a Star Wars movie, but they haven't been there. So this movie was Chewie's movie. I loved how he met Han. And these guys are just the perfect duo together. You could tell these guys were best friends from the start. Even without watching the original Star Wars movies, these guys were just making a perfect match, because they were just awesome. Chewie, I just love the way he was always growly, and the way he has a big heart. As much of a scoundrel he is to Han Solo, he really has a big heart, and I have to say that he stole the movie for me. Chewie was just the best. Before this movie started, you know, there were other people who watched this movie 2 weeks before its release date, and as much as I tried to keep away from reviews and spoilers because I wanted to enjoy the movie myself, this didn't stop me from hearing that there was gonna be a prequel character in this film. And believe it or not, people, Darth Maul came. After so many years since The Phantom Menace, I kept on telling myself Darth Maul is dead, Obi-Wan killed him in the first movie, and that he's not gonna come back to life. No matter how many comics, how many animated series they make, I'm not gonna believe it. But when I heard there was rumors of a prequel character coming, I actually got hopeful and said, if Darth Maul is in this movie, if he's in an animated style, if he's a sorry, not animated, if he's in a live action Star Wars movie for real, I would accept that he survived the events of Episode 1 and that Obi-Wan killed him in Star Wars Rebels, because either way I still wanted him to die by Obi-Wan's hand, but at the same time it was cool, really cool seeing him. It did bug me that he showed up in a hologram and was only in the scene for like 5 seconds. He really didn't do much. And when I read the reviews about this movie, it said that it was good for fast timers. So having Darth Maul show up like that was really weird, considering that the fast timers who are coming to watch this movie wouldn't have known who Darth Maul is. So the whole hologram scene with him lighting his lightsaber up for no reason was really bothersome, especially because there was no reason for him to be there. If you took out that scene, nothing would have changed. So yeah, having Darth Maul there, even though it was really cool, I found it to be really pointless. So yeah. Now let's talk about the story itself. And boy oh boy, this story. This was not a Han Solo movie. Let me tell you that for free. This film went completely off the rails. Like, you know how many people hate The Last Jedi because it was not a Star Wars film? I mean, there was fuel in that movie. No one cares about fuel in Star Wars. So in The Last Jedi, people really hated on it because it was too bald. It was too ballsy. It was taking way too many risks. And while these risks were good, because I personally loved The Last Jedi, people really hated it. And they were saying it was not a Star Wars movie because it lost the charm of even the prequels. People were saying that even the prequels were better than this. So yeah, but this film to me was really not a Star Wars film, because it just took an idea, or at least took something from another movie and completely ran with it. Like, I have no idea where this movie ran. Like, this movie was awesome. Like, okay, it wasn't awesome, but it went off the rails, and instead of being bad like The Last Jedi, like how people thought it was gonna be, it took it into a good way. Like, it was so bad it was good, or it was so crazy, so nonsensical, but it ended up actually being a good product in the end. Like, guys, this was amazing. But my favorite scene in the movie was where they got some unrefined materials, and they were taking it from one planet where enslaved Wookiees were to another planet where they would be able to refine it. And this is where we actually see Han Solo do the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. So when he was doing the Kessel Run, it was amazing. He had to dodge an Empire blockade. Like, there was a Star Destroyer, and let me just say, that scene with the Star Destroyer in the Nebula cloud thingy was awesome. And then we had a TIE fighter battle. We see him skid on a meteorite or asteroid or whatever. And then we have a battle with a giant space squid as they're getting sucked into a red black hole. As in, it's a black hole of fire as they're fighting a giant space squid. And then he makes the Kessel Run. That was the best scene in the movie for me. And then after that was seeing Darth Maul. That was the second best scene for me. I have to say that Lando in this movie was really great. He made a better Billy D. Williams than the original Billy D. Williams. Like, Lando here, every scene with him just brought some Star Wars charm into the mix. I loved how he made everything feel natural and how it brought Star Wars back to his roots. Like, let me just say, Lando was the only guy who made this Star Wars movie feel like a Star Wars movie. Because if it wasn't for Lando, I would have thought this movie was made by another studio, because it was not a Star Wars movie. As much as it says it's a Star Wars story, Rogue One was actually a Star Wars story because we were following a plot. Here was just something different. It just went off the rails. It just went crazy. It was the Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad of the Star Wars universe, and I loved it. This film was crazy. It was nonsensical. It was so bad it was good, and it was so bad that it was good in a good way. I cannot explain how this movie was because it is so confusing to tell. Some flaws I could point about the movie is that it left a lot of questions hanging. As I said, I don't know whether there'll be a follow-up film to this. I hope there isn't, because this film deserves to stand on its own. But if there is, well, I hope they answer those questions, because there are some questions here that I feel were not answered, and they better be answered in the following films, because I do not want to follow up to this Star Wars film. This is a film that should stand on its own, and it leaving us questions like this just left me annoyed. But anyways, guys, this has been Captain Phoenix, and it's been my review for Solo: A Star Wars Story.